I'm going to be spoiling pretty much everything in this game, so if you want to play the game blind, I recommend you do that and then come back and watch this video. But to sum up my feelings about this game without spoiling anything, let me tell you a story. When I first got this game, I decided that by the end of my first playthrough, if I liked it, I would get Sakura Wars So Long My Love. I wasn't even halfway through this game when I decided to buy it. The year is 1940. The man is Kamiyama Seijudo, former naval captain. After an unfortunate event, Kamiyama loses his position as the captain of a Navy ship and is transferred to the Grand Imperial Theater in Tokyo, where he must now captain the flower division of the Imperial Combat Review. The Review is a group of women who fight in giant mechs to defend the city. And when they're not doing that, they put on theatrical performances for the people of Tokyo. The theater's hit probably the lowest point it's ever seen. Their performances have been doing terribly, and because of that, they don't have any money to even fix up their mechs to defend the city. They've been relying on another combat review to do all the work for them, leaving the Imperial Combat Review as a shell of what it used to be. Now, for those of you not in the know, this isn't the first Sakura Wars game. There were 5 games made before this one, stretching back to the Sega Saturn. Unfortunately, we in the West only got this game and So Long My Love, so I can't really compare it to the old ones. I haven't even played So Long My Love as the recording of this video. But from what I gather, the old Imperial Combat Review used to be revered among the people of Tokyo and all the other combat reviews. And now this new group of people in the review are just seen as a laughingstock, disgracing the legacy of the original Imperial Combat Review and being looked down upon by their peers. But now that Kamiyama's here, the theater might just have a chance of reclaiming its former glory. Or it could fail miserably. But that's up to you and the choices you make. Sakura Wars is split into 2 different types of gameplay: visual novel-esque relationship building, and giant robot action. Let's talk about the relationship building first because it's definitely the most important of the 2. How do I describe this gameplay? You're watching an anime. Yeah, that's about right. Sakura Wars follows the life of Kamiyama as he leads the members of the Flower Division. You interact with these members and other characters by way of the lip system. The lip system, is a branching dialogue system that allows you multiple things you can say to people. In most cases, people will either respond positively, negatively, or neutrally to what you say. Obviously, you're going to want to have everyone respect you by the end of the game. You don't want to have too many mistakes, otherwise no one will respect you. I recommend saving often. Honestly, I don't think it affects the story, just how everyone feels about you at the end of the game. Also, don't listen to me. Sometimes choosing the answer you know is wrong can be fun. Also, you may think there are only 3 dialogue options, but in reality, there's 4. Letting the timer run out is always an option. In fact, you can get some unique dialogue and sometimes even gain affection just by waiting out the timer. You might even want to replay the game just so you can see some unique outcomes. I implore you, please experiment, even if you know it's wrong. Besides the branching dialogue lips, there are 3 other kinds of lip systems. There's one where you have to choose a certain level of emotion to put into your words. Sometimes you need to put all your force into what you're saying, and other times you need to take a more calm approach. There's another where you have to find a certain object in the environment before a time limit runs out. And the last one isn't exactly a new lip system, it's more like a gauntlet of all the previously established systems where it's just you having a face-to-face talk with one of the Flower Division members. You can get a lot of affection from the girls when you do these, so be very careful. You're gonna want to try to get the girls' affection for you as high as you can, because by the end of the game, you're going to have to choose one of these girls to be your own. Ah yes, the beautiful warriors of the Flower Division. Which one will you give your heart to? Will it be the brash and brutal yet bashful and beautiful Hatsuho? Will it be the alluring, ever-vigilant, kind and hard-working Anastasia? Will it be the resident bookworm who is also the playwright of every one of the Flower Division's legendary performances, Clarus? I chose Azami. And of course, there's the girl who inherited the title herself, the brave and the beautiful Sakura. Wait, what? You chose Azami? Yes. The 13-year-old. Yes. Okay, let me explain. Okay, I'm not gonna sugarcoat this for you guys. I love Azami. She is my favorite character in this game, hands down. I feel like she's the best written, she has a lot of nuances that add to her character, and yes, she's just the cutest. When she was very young, her parents abandoned her in a village where an old man raised her and trained her in the ways of ninjutsu. He told her that her parents would return for her when she became a great ninja, and that motivated her to keep getting better and better. She trains day and night to be the best ninja she can be. She's very self-disciplined and very strong, which must be how she earned her spot in the flower division. But even with all that training and selflessness, she's still a kid at heart. Isn't that the problem? Will you get out of here? Despite how serious she can seem at times, she still just loves to act like a young girl. When I first got this game, I figured she'd be the emo, always serious type. Even the character designs by Taita Kubo never showed her smiling, so I really didn't think much of her at first. I was honestly aiming for Clarus when I first started playing. Azami just seemed kind of cold and uninterested. So when she did smile and laugh and act childish, I was really caught off guard. I love when Azami is really expressive. Really, I love it when all these characters make a silly face or act in ways you wouldn't expect them to. This game really uses its anime aesthetic to its advantage. And personally, I feel like they use it best in Azami. Especially with her eyes. One second her eyes can look cold and menacing, like an assassin on a mission, and the next they're lit up like she just saw someone she really cares about. And it's really cute whenever her serious side and her childlike side are both on display. At first, it always seems like Azami's trying to hide something from you, as well as the rest of the team. Makes sense, she is the ninja, but despite your best efforts, you can't really get her to open up to you or obey you. That's one of the main reasons I thought she was so cold at first. Well, that along with the fact that she keeps trying to kill you. But then something happens that changes all that. She's accused of being a spy for the Koma, the enemies of this world. As her captain, you believe that she isn't a spy, and so you search for the truth that will prove her innocence. It does not go well. When you and Azami are caught, she finally opens up to you. She tells you how nobody believes how great a ninja her teacher is, and that nobody believes that ninjas exist at all. And because she's the one who got you both caught in the first place, she thinks she's a failure as a ninja. And you tell her she's wrong. After all the great things you've seen her do as a result of her training, all you see when you look at her is a great ninja. And when the guys who caught you try to mock her for believing that ninjas exist, you tell them they have no right to mock Azami. You say to them that she is a real ninja, and you're even willing to die defending her beliefs. After that event, Azami grows a lot closer to you. She's no longer insecure, because now she knows who she really is. And you're the one who got her there. Azami just has the best episode. I mean, like, she said she'll follow me to the ends of the earth. How do you not fall in love with the girl at least a little after she says that to you? Suddenly I feel like I'm forgetting something. Something important. Something to do with the actual title of the game. And it's probably nothing. Azami! She even invites you to a ninja training session with her, which she normally does by herself. That just shows how much she trusts you and looks up to you. I love how playful and excited she is to have you training with her. She normally does this alone, every day. That just shows how disciplined she is. I just can't get over that. This girl is so strong. She's been training like this day in and day out before she even joined the combat review. And you see the fruits of her labor in everything she does and in every way she acts. Near the end of the game, you go around comforting all the girls before a huge life or death mission. All of them need to be comforted in one way or another. They're worried that they might not all make it back safely, so of course they need to be comforted. All of them are worried, except Azami. She's not afraid of death. Why would she be? She's a ninja. They face death every day. But, because of her well-trained instincts, she senses that you're the one that's afraid. So you confide in her. You tell her that you do have fears and doubts, and that you worry if everyone's gonna make it out alive. You tell her that you're sorry for being a terrible captain. And what does Azami do? She comforts you. You've been going around comforting all the other girls with their fears, and here she is helping ease your worries and telling you how much she appreciates you, and how much the whole team appreciates you. You might not have faith in yourself, but she'll always have faith in you. She has this childlike trust in you that never wavers, no matter how bad things get. Even if she may doubt herself at times, she'll never doubt you. I just love her so much. Now, before I talk about the rest of the Flower Division, I need to talk about their captain, Kamiyama Seijuro. What words would I use to describe Kamiyama? Loyal, hardworking, and a total goofball. When he was put in charge of the review, he honestly had his doubts about the place being a success. With how terribly the shows have been going, and with how decrepit their combat armor is, you can hardly blame him. It doesn't help that he joined the review with some baggage of his own. I previously stated that he was a naval captain before becoming the Flower Division captain. The reason he had to leave that position is because his crew was defeated by the coma, and his ship was destroyed. After suffering that loss, he doesn't put much hope into anything anymore. If something seems too difficult to overcome, just run away. It's not until he sees Sakura fighting with everything she has and refusing to back down that he gains the strength to keep fighting until the very end. Now he motivates his team and others to never give up. His kind and strong attitude is what draws people to him. It doesn't hurt that he's also really silly. He's such a dork. I love him.
よし、俺が教えよう。
神山さん、演技なんてできましたっけ？
ああ、もちろんさ。見せてやる。俺のお箱を。パオーン！よし、行くぞ。海水浴の準備をせよ。
もっとこちらに来て、私を抱きしめて。
そんなに誘ってくれるな、クラリス。
嬉しい。これで願いが叶います。私たちは命果てて一つになる。さあ、共に湖の中に。
問題ない。俺は女だ。
Never change, Kamiyama. Clarissa Snowflake. Don't worry, she doesn't live up to her last name. At the beginning of the game, Clarus is a glass half empty sort of person. She wants to be a writer, but she's scared of her writings being scorned. She sees the Flower Division as a failure, and any attempt at saving the group as pointless or impossible. Granted, you couldn't really argue with her because it was kind of true. Their performances sucked, their combat armor was aging and falling apart. Yeah, you couldn't really blame her for feeling the way she does. But later on, you find out how she might have come to be this way. Clarus has a special power called Libromancy. She inherited these magic-like powers from her family, a group that caused destruction and war for whoever wanted their strength. She must have grown up knowing how terrible these powers were. She grew to hate her powers over time. She only sees them as a curse and wants nothing to do with them. This hatred of her powers probably manifested into a doubt of herself and her own skills. And eventually, it must have grown into doubting the skills of others around her. But Kamiyama tells her he likes her writing. He knows that she would never use her powers to hurt anyone. And when she knows that he believes in her, she starts to believe in herself. She starts to think that she isn't a monster. She grows to have faith in her team, in her writing, and in herself. Speaking of her writing, in the early game she freaks out whenever you find one of her notebooks or poems. But later on, she actually warms up to it and even wants to show you her rough drafts in the future. She even grows to write stories that she previously had no interest in. She's done a complete 180 from the girl who would have given up as soon as the going got tough. She's definitely the most dynamic character in the cast. Shinonome Hatsuho is the fire of the group. She's always straightforward and brutally honest. Despite her tomboyish attitude and tough guy talk, she really does care about her team, the theater, and the people of Tokyo. She can brighten up anyone's day just by being herself. She's always there to support her friends when they're down. Supportive is probably the best word you can use to describe Hatsuho. She's in charge of taking care of the theater's spirit crystal. You can almost always find her out there. She's strong enough to help out with the stage props and even the mechs. She wants to push her friends to be the best they can be, and do the best they can do. If anyone needs help with anything, she'll be there. She's definitely the most reliable member of the team. But for some reason, she doesn't see herself that way. She doesn't have any major goals for herself, like everyone else in the team. She doesn't want to be a world-famous actress, or even the best actress in the Flower Division. She doesn't want to be a great writer or a great ninja. She just loves helping others. She's perfectly fine staying where she is in life as long as her friends succeed. But sometimes that gets to her. Behind her tough and spunky persona is a girl who lacks confidence in herself. During her face-to-face mission, she tells you that she thinks she isn't needed on the team. She doesn't think she makes much of a difference. Despite all she's done for the team and the whole theater, she really only sees herself as dead weight. Which is dumb. Hatsuho's out there fighting just as hard as everyone else is. When others are overwhelmed by the enemy, she gets back up and keeps on fighting. This group wouldn't be half as good if it wasn't for Hatsuho giving everyone a push when they needed it. She's irreplaceable. The girl who inherited the title herself, Amamiya Sakura. When she was a kid, she was saved from a demon by Shinguji Sakura, the main heroine of the original games. Ever since then, she wanted to be just like her, a member of the Flower Division, a great actress, and a fearless warrior. But when you first run into her, she and the rest of the Flower Division have a long way to go. They can't act or fight demons. The Imperial Combat Review is about to be disbanded entirely. The theater is a far cry from what it used to be when Sakura was a kid, but despite this, she refuses to give up on the Flower Division. Even when offered a chance to work for a new, seemingly better Combat Review, she chooses to stay with the broken Imperial Combat Review. That's the group she loved ever since she was a kid. And now, she refuses to leave them in their time of need. And when she puts in the effort to keep fighting, it somehow gives those around her the confidence to keep fighting as well. Sakura is always doing her best at everything she does, whether that be sword training, sewing costumes for the performances, and especially acting. She's incredibly hardworking, despite her ditzy character, and she's strong enough to earn the respect of other combat reviews. Her personality and work ethic just draws people to her. But sometimes Sakura puts too much pressure on herself. Like I said before, this Sakura wants to be just like Shinguji Sakura. However, she soon finds out that Shinguji might have turned evil, and when Shinguji, who now goes by the name of Yasha, destroys her combat armor, Sakura just completely shuts down. She can't fight for her city anymore, and her hero is now the villain. She just wants to run away and hide. It's only through Kamiyama's support and Hatsuho's kind words that Sakura gets back on her feet. She has a new resolve to fight for the people of Tokyo. Not just because Shinguji Sakura is her hero, but because she loves this city and the Flower Division. And so, she fights to protect them both. And then there's Anastasia.
But wait, there's more!
Sakura's a great
coach.
soap opera.
Sakura's the fastest thing alive.
That's not Sakura.
What do you mean that's
Sakura's
Sakura?
Sakura's house. You should grab me on the whole thing.
Please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you overwhelmed by how much Sakura I was throwing at you? Congratulations! Now you kind of know what it's like to play this game. Kinda feels like this game's throwing Sakura in front of your face all the time. First off, it turns out that Sakura and Kamiyama are childhood friends. What is this, a built-in love interest or something? Kinda feels like they're trying to push her on you. Later on in the game, you find out that Sakura's mother sacrificed herself to win the war against the Coma. Tekon, Sakura's father, tells Sakura that she has to sacrifice herself to save the world, just like her mother did. Now, game? Are you trying to guilt trip me into choosing Sakura? Again, at the making of this video, I haven't played the other Sakura Wars games, so I don't know if something like this is a common occurrence with the other main heroines of those games. On one hand, it does make sense because she is the main heroine, so of course they want to give her the most attention. The trouble doesn't begin until she starts taking attention away from the other girls. Most of the time, it's not a big deal. She'll get jealous of how close Kamiyama and Clarus are getting. She'll get new combat armor and then have it and her original combat armor destroyed on a zombies episode. And she'll get the lead role in a play instead of Anastasia. I don't really mind these things happening for Sakura, especially her getting the lead role in a performance. All throughout the game, you see her sharpening her acting skills with you and Anastasia. She's come a long way since that first performance, and it culminates in Anastasia giving up the lead role and giving it to Sakura. She's earned it through all her hard work. And she is the main heroine of the game, so it does make sense that she gets the lead role. No, none of that bothers me. What mainly bothers me is that she stole Hatsuho's episode. In Hatsuho's episode, Sakura is in a depression because her Kobu and Mugen were both destroyed by Yasha, the woman she believes to be Shinguji Sakura. So you spend most of the time trying to comfort Sakura throughout the episode. You take her back to her home where you meet her dad, you reminisce about your childhood days together, you see the spot where Shinguji Sakura saved her life. She's even kind enough to not get her father to kill you. But are you starting to see the problem here? This is Hatsuho's episode, and she's barely in it. There are some moments with her sprinkled throughout, but the emphasis is on Sakura. And in a way that sort of works. As I've previously stated, Hatsuho is more of a supporter with no big dreams of her own. So when Sakura refuses to come out of her slump, Hatsuho tries to knock some sense back into her. Sakura is her best friend, so no matter how far she strays from the path, Hatsuho will always be there to push her back on it. We never would have seen Hatsuho like this if this episode wasn't planned out this way. This is honestly one of the best scenes in the entire game, and I'm not sure if it would have worked out so well if the emphasis wasn't put on Sakura. But I still wish the episode had more Hatsuho in it. The episode's like 80% Sakura, 20% Hatsuho. She even done stole Hatsuho's victory pose. Dang. Don't get me wrong though, I don't hate Sakura. They kind of force her on you a bit, but I do like her as a character. Early in the game, Sakura tells you how Shinguji saved her from a demon as a kid. She took it out in one strike. Sakura was so amazed by her strength that she decided to join the Flower Division and be just like Shinguji Sakura. But in the last episode, you travel back in time to that exact moment. And it turns out it wasn't Shinguji Sakura who saved her as a little girl. It was Sakura herself. She's finally reached that point she's been dreaming of since she was a child. And then there's Anastasia. Of all the girls in the game, including even Azami, Anastasia stands out from the rest of them to me. You already know why, but let me tell you anyway. Anastasia Palma is unique among all the members of the Flower Division because she is just so incredibly BORING! To any Anastasia fanboys in the audience, you may want to leave because I'm about to say some things about your girl that you might not appreciate. I'm really not a fan of Anastasia. I just don't gravitate towards her like I do the other characters in the game. Seriously, all the characters, not even just the Flower Division, all the characters have personalities that just make me really interested in them. But Anastasia's personality just doesn't attract me. All she does is act, go to kabuki shows, and talk about stars. And yes, all the other girls have these sort of one-note hobbies as well. Azami, ninja, manju, Hatsuho, shrine maiden, Clarus, books, writing, Sakura, acting, sword practice. But under all these surface-level details are characters with layers of depth to them. I can't say the same thing about Anastasia. I mean, she does have a mischievous side. I just wish we saw more of it. Even most of her side missions aren't all that interesting. They're mostly just talking about what she saw at the kabuki theater or acting. And you do learn some small things about her through these. I love how humble she is despite being a world-renowned actress. She cares about her fans and she'll even fix the piano to make sure her performances go well. That is true humility despite her being so famous. With Anastasia, I feel like she tries to keep things professional between you and the rest of the team. At least at the beginning of the game. When Clarus closes herself off because she's ashamed of her powers, Anastasia asks how it's going to affect the show. When Sakura is suffering from her depression, she thinks it's best to move on without her. Now, it's definitely sound logic on a professional level, but it just shows how unattached she is. And it makes me not really care for her. If you only look at things professionally, it's not really going to make me feel anything for you. And I get it, someone has to think about these things logically, but still. Honestly, in most of the lips interactions that we had, I never really got the feeling that she liked me. Even her face-to-face mission isn't romantic. First off, while all the other girls' face-to-face missions are in their rooms, Anastasia's is in the control room. The cold, uninteresting control room. Maybe that's why they chose it for Anastasia. She's only in there because she's a spy for the coma, which you find out later in the game. She then makes you interrogate her as if she were a spy. You do get to see a bit of her flirtatious side, as well as the fact that she's just proud of the body God gave her, but the romance feels forced and kind of fake. She pretends to be in love with you to distract you from suspecting her, and then she says it was all an act to tease you. That's not romantic. Sakura feels like she'll never make her dreams come true. Clarus wants your help to write a romantic play. Hatsuho thinks she's useless and confides in you. And Azami trusts you so much that she wants to show you her ninja training. All of these feel genuine. I feel actual romance between Kamiyama and these girls. But if Anastasia was just gonna pretend it was all an act, well, that just doesn't make me feel anything towards her. I feel like with Anastasia, they try to make her seem deep with a lot of foreshadowing. When she's pretending to be a fortune teller, she says some cryptic things that kind of relate to how she acts later in the game. Later on, Anastasia watches a kabuki show about a man who wants to be accepted and forgiven by God, and maybe that just shows how much she wants to be accepted and forgiven by the Flower Division after she betrays them. And that is very cool, but I want to know more about you as a person. Her room is actually a pretty accurate interpretation of who she is. It's very plain with not a lot in it. And then you look at her desk and see these drawings. Is art a hobby for her? Or maybe she's interested in fashion? That's cool! Why don't we hear her talking about that? Who taught her how to draw? Maybe someone in her family who's now dead? Let's talk about that! You know, Kaoru designed Peanuts. What if the two of them designed another mascot or something else together? Or what if she goes to draw something in the park and Kamiyama finds her and she gets embarrassed or something? It could be a fun side quest. She could be insecure about her art skills despite how good she is. Those could have been interesting side quests that could show a bit more of her personality. But nope, we never talk about the drawings. As an artist, this upsets me on a deep, personal level. Maybe I'm being too hard on her. Anastasia isn't boring, and she really is an interesting character. But I guess she's just not my type. When she first arrived at the theater, she just saw it as a job, both as an actress and as a spy for the coma, which you find out later in the game. She wasn't supposed to get attached. In all her years of doing this whole spy thing, she never did. But the Flower Division had a certain warmth that attracted her and made her open up a little. She didn't want to help the girls become better actresses at first, but through their persistence, they finally got through to her. Eventually, she accepts Sakura as her apprentice, and the rest of the team as her students. She even sees them as a second family, since she lost her first family in the war. Wait, what war? The Battle of Tokyo 10 years ago? That was demons against the combat reviews, and Anastasia said her family was killed by other humans, so it can't be that. Yeah, they never really specify, it's just the war. Despite all I've said so far, Anastasia is still just as much a hero as everyone else in the team. She's out there fighting to protect Tokyo and keep the Imperial Theater alive. After she betrays you, and is then betrayed by Yasha, she feels guilty about what she's done and wants to make it right by fighting against the coma, even though she's still recovering from her injury. She knows that what she's done is wrong, and she's even willing to die for it. That is very admirable. I do respect and trust Anastasia, but that's just not enough to make me fall in love with her. I respect the police and the fire department. They're heroes, but that doesn't make me want to marry one of them. In the last fight with Yasha, she's imbued with so much power that she takes out her team members one by one. But before they die, they each say something which shows how far they've come as characters throughout the game. Clarus, who before thought that the Flower Division was always doomed to fail, saves Azami's life and reassures her that they will win. She has faith that the Flower Division will save the world. She never would have said that before. Azami apologizes to the team, thinking she was nothing but a burden this whole time, just like when you were captured by Mr. I. And she's happy when she hears that she was never a burden. She's always been an indispensable team member. And Hatsuho, the one always giving everyone else confidence, the one who was convinced that she was expendable, uses the hope her friends gave her to deal a damaging blow to Yasha that would ultimately lead to her downfall, proving how much the Flower Division always needed her. And when Sakura begs her not to die, Hatsuho, still being Hatsuho, consoles Sakura in her own special way, and tells her that they'll be friends again in the next life. Oh yeah, Anastasia just dies. Yeah, she doesn't even say anything, she just dead. I guess in a way that shows how far she's come as a character. In the end, look guys, I've played through this game 6 times so I could get the different endings, and I had a lot of fun playing it each time. But when I play this game in the future, I will never go for Anastasia again. She's just not my type. And it's sad. I like you and respect you, Anastasia. I really do. I just don't love you like I do the other girls. Actually, I don't love Sakura, but that's not the point. If you guys like her, great. Tell me why you like her. I would genuinely love to hear why. Maybe it'll change my opinion on her. I just hope that in the next game, and in case it isn't obvious, I really hope there's a next game, that they just add more to her character. Wait, you played through this game 6 times? There's only 5 girls. Why'd you play through it 6 times? I wanted to get the Azami ending again. Dude, will you get off my back? I love Azami, okay? She's fun, she's well written, her character design is great, she's hardworking, she's self-disciplined, and she's adorable. Besides, if Kamiyama wants to marry her, he has to wait until she's 18. That's pretty romantic, waiting for someone to be of age before you marry him. But anyway, that's enough talking about Azami for a good bit. Let's move on to something more manly, the combat. Alright, time to get in the Mugen and kill some Koma. In this game, you take control of Kamiyama and the rest of the Flower Division, and they all play differently from each other. Who's my favorite character to play, as you ask? Azami. Dude! Unlike the past Sakura Wars games, which were all strategy RPGs, this one is an action game. It's sort of like the Dynasty Warriors games in that there's a whole bunch of enemies on screen at once, and, for the most part, they're pretty easy to take down. It's pretty simple to get the hang of it. You do a normal attack with circle, a heavy attack with triangle, and you dodge with R1. If you dodge right before an enemy attack hits you, you slow down time. Insert Bayonetta joke here. Once your special meter is filled up, you can activate a special attack with square. Kamiyama is always going to be playable along with the girl of that particular chapter. Switch between the two of them with L1. If you keep doing well in combat, your morale will increase, which will boost your attack power. The morale will only decrease if you get hit or attack alone. It's not always clear how you get the lone wolf thing. Once the girls have their own episode, you can power up their attacks even more by pressing the touchpad on the PS4 controller. And that's basically it. It's pretty simple and yeah, pretty easy too. After a little practice, you'll be getting S ranks like crazy. I don't think I've ever gotten a rank below an A before. Kamiyama is probably the best fighter in the entire game. He has fast-hitting, wide-sweeping moves that are good for crowds and even aerial enemies. He can dodge out of his own attacks pretty easy. Not exactly dodge offset, but pretty close. And when he freezes time and an enemy's health is low enough, he can instantly kill them. It's just a joy to fight as Kamiyama, which is good because you can't not play as him. Hatsuho is the heavy hitter. With her giant hammer and wide sweeping attacks, she knocks baddies all around the battlefield. She can smack smaller enemies into other enemies with a heavy attack on the ground, or with a light attack in the air. She doesn't have a lot of control in the air. She can only come back down with a heavy attack. That attack just shreds through enemies if you can get a whole bunch of them together. Because her attacks are all heavy, they require a lot more commitment than a lot of the other fighters. You can't dodge out of them like Kamiyama can. So you might take some hits when you are trying to dodge, but you can adapt, and that is an easy compromise for just how fun it is to play as Hatsuho. Because Sakura wasn't shoved in your face enough in the relationship gameplay, they gotta make sure she gets all the attention in the combat as well. Everyone else on the team only has one robot to pilot. Sakura has 3. There's Sakura's Kobu, which can only be used in missions 1 through 4. There's her Obu, which can be used in missions 5 through 8. And finally, there's her Mugen, from the Sakura Wars anime, which can be used in any mission. All 3 of them have the same moveset and animations, but each one has its own little quirk and different special attacks. Sakura's Kobu is probably the most average robot in the game. That's not a bad thing though. It might not excel at anything, but it's not exactly bad at anything either. Basic sword slashes and a handy dash attack to get you to your target. Sakura's Obu is slightly different. It can launch projectiles when using a heavy slash, which can be pretty useful if you have a bunch of enemies lined up. And Sakura's Mugen? Oh boy. This sucker is broken. This guy tears through enemies. This game's easy enough as is, and this guy just makes it even easier. Definitely the most overpowered of the melee robots. Clarus, unlike everyone else mentioned so far, is only able to attack with projectiles. She's kinda clunky, and a lot of her attacks have long animations that can't be dodged out of, but she takes out mobs like no one else. Just lining up a bunch of enemies and watching them explode feels so satisfying. And unleashing her tornadoes and watching the enemies fly is really fun. Probably the most difficult character to master, but really satisfying when you do. And we're back to Anastasia. Don't worry, I don't find her lacking as a fighter either. However, I would say that she is completely broken and overpowered. She uses projectile attacks like Clarus. Unlike Clarus, however, Anastasia's attacks are way faster. They do a lot of damage too, and they can reach nearly anywhere on the battlefield. They shred through even the bigger enemies like they're nothing. Your morale might go down a bit because of the whole lone wolf thing, but then it'll shoot right back up just because you're killing so many enemies. Oh, you still don't believe that Anastasia is broken, huh?
No, we believe you.
Then let me show you one last piece of evidence to prove my case. This is the final boss. Notice our morale is at 10. This is Anastasia powering up. This is Anastasia using her special attack, and... Hey speedrunners, I think I found your girl. Mochizuki Azami. Again. Why is she my favorite character to play as? I think it's because she's not as overpowered as the other characters in the game. As I've stated about the other characters, they all have wide-reaching attacks that do a lot of damage to a lot of baddies all at once. Azami doesn't have that luxury. Her attacks have a very narrow range and focus mostly on one enemy. And when there are a lot of enemies coming at you all at once, that can lead to you taking a lot of damage. And that means, if you want to feel powerful while playing as Azami, you gotta earn it. Even while you're focusing on one enemy, you gotta pay attention to what's happening around you. Is an enemy about to attack you? Wait for the exact right moment and then dodge out of the way to freeze time. Azami has a dodge offset with most of her attacks, which makes her a little more manageable in these situations. And because most of her moves don't require a lot of commitment, you can pull off some cool moves by freezing time and beating up on baddies. Sometimes I've gotten it so I'm constantly dodging and freezing time and just destroying these guys. And because her moves are so quick, you can zoom around the battlefield taking out the smaller enemies. Watching all the little grunts blow up during a time freeze and having them linger until the end is really satisfying. I feel like you don't get that with the other fighters. They feel good to play as well, but with Azami, the fact that you have to work a little harder if you want to have any control of the fight just feels more satisfying. Though the action isn't as deep as some other games, it still is really fun. I hope they do add depth to any future titles, but as it stands, this game is just really fun to fight in. The sound design for combat is really well done. The sound of every attack with each character is just music to my ears. And the game just moves so fast and fluidly that sometimes it's just hard to put down. You just want to keep replaying missions with each character. The biggest gripe I have is that there could be so much more here in terms of challenges. In Chapter 3, Reiji, the mechanic, builds a machine that lets you fight it in any mission you've completed. He says you can simulate combat with all sorts of variables. Sounds exciting, right? Well, in reality, it just means you can fight in any chapter with any of the girls. That's a bit disappointing. What if we could fight without any other team member and just go in solo? What if we could fight without Kamiyama and instead have 2 other team members? What if there was a training mode or a tournament mode or an endless mode? Those would be cool and a great reason to come back again and again. But instead, we can only play through the same chapters that we just played through. Again, it is fun. but I just wish there was more. The translation of the game is good, for the most part. Most of the lines sound like they fit what the Japanese speakers were saying. But hey, I don't speak fluent Japanese, I just watch a lot of anime. But even still, there are some times when you can clearly tell when the subtitles don't match what the voice actors are saying, or their body language.
Azami, 君が副隊長だ。
承知。望月あざみ、花組副隊長の任を拝命する。
Azami doesn't look like she's asking these questions. She looks like she's accepting her position as deputy captain. It's so jarring to see her act and speak with confidence, and to have the subtitle saying something with a completely different attitude.
芝さん考案の量子再生層、こいつの力にかけようやないか。
Like, you're not going to trick me into thinking Kamiyama said, I hope so. He said, as in a sound of affirmation. We do that here in America too, you know. There are plenty of other cases, but I think you get my point. They're not all bad. I just hope that all those times the voice actors aren't talking are more accurate to what they said in Japanese. I guess we'll never know. Or I could learn Japanese and get the Japanese version. Also, guys, why didn't you call these things coma? I know they're called coma. I hear the voice actors saying coma. I've played Project Cross Zone, where they call them coma. How do you think I got here in the first place? Again, the translation is good. It is not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. This may just be me, but I would have preferred a more accurate translation. Overall, I think the game is very well done, but there's just one nitpick I want to point out. In the final episode, Shin Sakura shows up to save our Sakura. There she is, the star of the original Flower Division. You see her, wearing her iconic kimono with her back towards the camera. She turns around and... is that supposed to be Shinguji or someone cosplaying as her? She doesn't really look like Shinguji Sakura. At least not a Kosuke Fujishima drawn Shinguji Sakura. The original Shinguji Sakura has a sort of 90s style to her. This one looks too modern. If Shinguji Sakura turned around here and looked just like her Kosuke Fujishima self, that would have made this scene so perfect. Instead, she just looks kind of generic in my opinion. We've been looking at her the entire game, so they could have easily made her look like her old self. Okay, Xiaolong, I get that you're trying to break her spirit so she won't get herself killed, but do you have any idea how expensive these machines are? You're totally paying for this, right? First time we meet Azami, tries to kill you. Another time we meet Azami, tries to kill you. Random psychos with Azami, tries to kill you. Why'd I like you again? Oh yeah, I forgot. Can't afford an acting coach and some stagehands. Can afford a giant metal robot. Guys, it's 1 square foot of land. Why would you block this off? Just let me in. Why is it that Sega's really good at making games that don't involve Sonic the Hedgehog? Can't afford an acting coach and some stagehands. Can afford a world famous actress. Sakura's Kobu's breaking down, huh? Gee, I wonder how that happened. Man, this Koi Koi game is tough. There's so much I don't know. How am I supposed to do this? Maybe I'll never learn how to. 5 lights, you ugly! Goodness, I'm sorry I said you were boring! I love you. Forever and always. You're mine. Hold me. Together, our souls intertwine. Can't this go on? But my heartstrings you cannot sever. No, don't stop. Stay with me now. Always. And forever. You seriously played through this game 6 times. Actually, I had to go through it one more time to get some additional footage. Guess who I went for again?
Did you hear something?
Yeah, it kinda sounded like...
Hey, it's me, a convenient snake!
Fun fact, Kohei Tanaka, the composer of the Sakura Wars series, is also the composer of the One Piece anime and the Gravity Rush series. Which is ironic because Mayumi Tanaka, the voice actress for Luffy in One Piece, also plays Kana Kirishima in the first 4 Sakura Wars games. And Sanae Kobayashi, the voice actress for Kat in the Gravity Rush games, also plays Gemini Sunrise in Sakura Wars So Long My Love. There's no joke here. Okay, who looked at that face and decided that it didn't need to be adjusted? Hey! Man, I bet the old Flower Division was incredible. If only there was a way for me to experience how incredible they were firsthand.
Can't afford not to go to some stagehands!
I would just like to apologize for this next one. I could not control myself. Before I let you go, let me sum up how I feel about this game with an anecdote. Throughout the game, you're constantly collecting bromides, pictures of the characters in this game and in the past games. You get them from doing simulation battles, buying them from Komachi, and by hints you get on a bookshelf in the archives. Right before the final mission, the last hints you get are the Imperial Combat Review Commander takes a seat, drawn to her warmth in a place of rest, and a font of courage for her flowers. When I first played this game, I was stumped by this hint. The first two were easy enough, but a font of courage for her flowers? First I thought I misread it as fount, so I ran outside to the spirit crystal. I scoured the entire area, but it wasn't there. So I went back inside and checked the flowers near the entrance of the theater. Nothing. At one point I honestly thought it meant font as in writing type, so I thought it might be the writing of Nin that Azami has in her room above her bonsai tree. Nothing there either. Okay, what now? Let's look up the word font. That should help. A receptacle of water, sometimes used in baptisms. Back out to the spirit crystal. Nope, still nothing. I must have searched that entire theater from top to bottom, but I couldn't find it. I searched every room, every nook and cranny, regardless of whether or not it fit the description of the hint, but I just couldn't find it. Well, I say every room, but there was one place I hadn't looked because, well, there'd never been a bromide there before, so I figured it wouldn't be there now. But after searching for what felt like at least an hour, I finally gave up and went to that location. I went to my room, looked behind my bed, and there it was. I'm the font of courage for her flowers. I'm the font of courage for Sumire's flowers. I give them strength, I give them hope, I give them confidence. Through all the hard times, they relied on me to get them through, and they've grown and found who they really are. And I'm the one who helped them reach that point. And of course font means fountain, I'm an idiot. Maybe it's sappy, but I got a little emotional when I got to this point. I think I cried a little. I had already known that this game was something special, but I think this was the moment when I realized just how much Sakura Wars really meant to me. I really hope you'll consider buying this game. It is in no way perfect, but I really think this game will have an impact on you, especially if you like romance. Part of me wants to keep playing even though I've played it 7 times. That's just a sign of how well made this game is. The 6th playthrough in particular felt incredible because I knew how to make everyone happy, and how to get the funniest reactions. There's still so much I haven't even touched on. The side characters and their motivations, the city of Tokyo and their townspeople, the background information on the team, the character designs, koi, the music. I love it all so much. I've really grown attached to this world and these characters. Yes, even you, Anastasia. And Sega, if you're listening, you've got something great on your hands. Don't put it on ice again. I bought Sakura Wars So Long My Love twice because I love this game so much. That's how much this series means to me now. It made me want to make this YouTube channel in the first place. Thanks for watching.